Well, hello there. I am now back to viewing movies. Um, it's been, I don't know, a week or a couple weeks. I don't even really remember. Well, it's been since October, I think 27th was the last time I went to a film prior to the film I'm going to review today. That was the end of the Philadelphia Film Festival. And, I saw a lot of movies in October. And I just the first week in November, and I think actually the first day was the 8th. I looked back at the film listings, and I saw that there was a number of movies that were the last day to be shown was on the 8th of November. So I was like, oh, I really missed the boat. So I had to pick between two films, and the film I decided to see was Detropia, which is a documentary about the urban decay in Detroit, how the population is shrinking and the jobs have been shipped overseas for the most part. It gives a lot of attention to the automakers and how all those jobs are disappearing. So it was really mostly a documentary on the economic conditions in Detroit. Now the thing is, I've been interested in Detroit for a long time, and I think that's one of the reasons why I chose to see the film because most of what you hear about Detroit is the economic decay. But then some interesting stories over the last few years started to come out about how a lot of artists and people are moving to Detroit because of, because of so much of the decay that's happened. There's a lot of cheap land to be had, and people have been buying up properties and been using these properties to um, get involved in different projects. Some of them have also purchased storefronts and created stores, things that they wouldn't economically be able to do in other places where the real estate is a lot more expensive. So there's been a lot of stories of that in the last few years, and I've been interested in a lot of these stories. And I looked into Detroit uh, a lot myself and a lot of the cultural happenings that have been going on there. And they talk about that in a little bit in the film, Detropia. One of the things that's kind of interesting about this story is that if economically, if things keep going the way they are, a lot of issues that happen in Detroit are going to be happening in cities and places throughout the country. They're already happening in a lot of places, but a lot of cities have been able to survive and um, reinvent themselves. So they've been avoiding a lot of the worst of the worst of the economic conditions. A lot of the previous Rust Belt cities have reinvented themselves in some way or some form. So but I just think because of economic conditions, because there's so much cheap labor to be had overseas, and how multinational companies, I mean, it's a global world, and it's just cheap labor. It's not just manual labor; it's also labor, writers, from writers to scientists to any type of technical field. There's people overseas that are just as trained or just as capable of doing those jobs. So there's no barrier anymore. Anyone can be affected, and that's definitely going to have to, at some point, that's going to affect workers here to an even greater extent than it has already. One thing I have here, I just want to show this is the promotional postcard for the film Detropia, and I just want to show this here. Hopefully, YouTube will capture this because then I can use this as a still for the video still. But they may not capture it or not. And also, I'm using this particular camera puts everything backwards, so it looks all kind of strange. But it's an interesting video still. One of the things I love about going to the art house movie theaters is that they have these available on the counter, so that you can pick up these. And I've been collecting these for years. Some of them, if you look at the back, there's a little bit writing, a little on the film, a blurb. Some of them are actually like real postcards, where they have the cinema poster on the front, and on the back they have a placer for the stamp, and also lines for the addresses and everything else. So this one you could probably use as a postcard because there's a huge amount of space here, you know. Um, so this is Detropia. I think I don't know. I thought this film was also going to be shown on Independent Lens on PBS, but I'm not really sure. I tried to find some information about it online, but I haven't seen anything. During one of the commercials for Independent Lens, they showed the still from the film. So I'm assuming that at some point they're going to probably show it in 2013, but I couldn't find any data on it online. And to be truthful, I didn't look that long. I looked down the Independent Lens website and I didn't see anything. They do actually discuss it, but it's within the. It's not a. It's not an article just on Detropia. Apparently, it's discussed through and maybe in minor detail in some other articles. But you know, if you want to look that up, you can see it for free. You know, probably on PBS, so probably sometime next year, possibly. Don't quote me on that. But it's a pretty decent film and decent documentary. You know, on a 1 to 10, I'll probably give it a solid 7 or an 8. Valuable to see. And if you're ever interested in Detroit, one of the things they had in the movie, they had these two guys from Switzerland who said they came to Detroit, I guess as tourists. It's not really sure why, how long they're going to be there. But they came because they were interested in the urban decay of Detroit. And I think a lot of people are kind of interested in that. And they do that a lot in the film. They show people doing urban exploration through a lot of these empty skyscrapers, empty buildings that they have in there. You know, some of these things were very magnificently built many years ago, and they're beautiful buildings, but they're just sitting there decaying. And now the only people that probably use them are the urban homeless and also these urban explorers who go there and take pictures. You can find videos on YouTube with people who are going through different skyscrapers in New York. I mean, excuse me, in Detroit. You can also find blogs devoted to this where people are taking pictures of some of these magnificently empty buildings. They've lost more than half their population. I think Detroit at its height was about 2 million strong, and now it's possibly under 700,000. So they lost anywhere from 1.2 to 1.3 million people, possibly even more than that now. I mean, every day more and more people are leaving there or coming in. One thing they do say in the film is that in Detroit, Detroit's downtown has experienced a rise in young people. I don't know if it's a rise in overall population, but it's a rise in young people. There's a lot of people because I think it's one of the more cheaper downtowns to live in America. So there are people that live in downtown Detroit by choice, and also the downtown section is thought to be extremely safe. You know, there's not the density of stores that you'll find in a lot of downtowns like Chicago or Philadelphia, though. So you don't have that store density. There's not as many supermarkets in the city of Detroit, so you might have to travel a little further for food. One place that's kind of really interesting in Detroit is the Midtown area. I believe that's the name of the section. You have a lot of museums there, a lot of cultural institutions, art galleries, and a lot of I guess it's considered the hip section of Detroit, but it's probably going to be a lot cheaper than other such sections in other types of cities. You know, you have the Detroit, I think it's the Detroit Institute of Arts, the DIA, I believe is named that museum. They have a movie theater there, and they show a lot of art house films. Um, you also have Detroit Institute of Contemporary Art. You have universities that are clustered around that area. You have Detroit Library, and I think it has also one of the more exciting areas as far as restaurants and things like that. So that's an interesting. If you have to live in Detroit, you might choose to live in Midtown, but you know that's neither here nor there. But yeah, this is a pretty decent film. You know, I think it's worth viewing. You know, I also picked up a couple other cinema stills while I was there at the theater. This was the other film that I was thinking about seeing, The Loneliest Planet, and it ended here in Philadelphia. The last day was the 8th, so I didn't get a chance to see this film, and I was a little bit sad about that because I was interested in seeing it, and I'll probably get a chance to see it at another venue, you know, maybe online or something. This is a preview that they showed that I want to definitely see this. the house I live in, about the prison industrial complex here in the United States. Seems very interesting. I look forward to see this. A lot of this information is already out there. You know, you watch this documentary, and I'm just going on the previews here. I haven't seen it yet, but a lot of the things that they're talking about are things that I'm kind of aware of, and how dangerous in what we're doing right now with the amount of people that we are locking up in this country. Wuthering Heights seems fairly interesting. The trailer was beautiful. I think this film might be out right now. Actually, I think it opened this weekend. I'm talking here in Philadelphia. So I might make an effort to see if that's open and maybe go see it this week. Who knows? But yeah, it's a lot of things happening, and I'm getting back into the groove of seeing films again. So I'm really proud of that. You know, I really miss seeing films. And you know, okay, and there's some other things I do want to mention here, and that I have a couple new playlists that I've created. We have the Cinephile Film Bluff Cinephilia playlist, where this is an interesting playlist because one thing, it's very hard to find videos on this subject. So I had to piece together a lot of things. I have things here or trailers from films that I've seen through the years, which had a major element in regards to cinephiles. That was a major element within the story. You have things like The Dreamers. You have videos on Amos Vogel, who was I guess he created along with his wife Cinema 16, and he also wrote the book Film as a Subversive Art. I'm familiar with him from that documentary on that, which is by the same name, Film of Subversive Art. So I have some videos on Amos Vogel. We also have some things in there on the movie Cinemania, which is all about the cinephiles within New York. Great documentary. I love that documentary. One of my favorite documentaries of all time. Have a lot of clips from that. And then also just things about cinema culture, cinephilia, and things like that. It's about, I think, about 30 videos strong right now. I don't know if I'll be able to add any more to that. It just was really difficult to find more videos. And we also have, I'm also working right now on a playlist on Jean-Luc Godard. It's still, at this point, it's still early and it's nowhere near complete, but it's already gotten started, so you can check that out as well. So yeah, that's all I have to say for right now. Stay tuned for additional videos. Peace.